Morning, Duke said. Eyes, damn it, who the hell left the curtains drawn? I can't sleep because of the sunlight. Wait, drawn curtains. What the? Who dared to come into my room? Duke, thinking to himself. There are only a handful of servants left in the castle. I can't imagine any of those wimps had the guts to do this. HM? Answer me. That girl, I didn't think she'd really be a virgin. I had no doubt she was lying. I treated her too roughly based on that assumption. Hasn't she come out of her room yet? Well, I'm sure when she's read, lo and behold, I thought she'd still be in bed, crying her eyes out. She's quite a character. This is odd. I thought the king's order was for me to take a wife. The Viscount must have been confused and sent me a maid. Wouldn't you say? Ha! Then Duke said to Edna, Anyway, this is utter disrespect for me on his part, sending you dressed in such rags. I hope that's not what you're wearing to our wedding. Edna replied, You tore off the dress I was supposed to wear at the wedding. Duke responded, Are you talking back to me? I thought I made it clear yesterday that. What then? Edna interrupted. Should I ignore you? Duke said. Duke thought to himself. I already knew it yesterday, but she's definitely something else. She's like a lion cub with all her claws out. Then he told her. When we go to the village, we should get you a new dress first. You can't get married in a torn dress. And the one you have on right now is even worse. Why? Edna asked. Why what? I promised you yesterday, Duke replied. But that's my problem. If you marry me, you'll be slighting the king. I don't know why you take such a risk to, Edna said. First of all, Duke interrupted, I wasn't serious about wanting to marry Anna. I made a joke 'cause she had a pretty face. And what the king wants is for me to marry and settle down. He won't care if it isn't with Anna. Lastly, I'm a man of my word. I do what I say. HM? You, he started to say. Huh, Edna responded. Your face, it's a bruise. Did they beat you 'cause you're a bastard? Duke asked. It wasn't like that. And it's none of your business, Edna replied. Are you ashamed that you were beaten? You are one proud bastard, aren't you? Duke said. Fine. From now on, at least in this castle, something like that will never happen. Edna, thinking to herself, at that moment, I really looked at his face for the first time. We should eat first, Duke said. We should make haste. There's a lot to do today. Edna thought, a war hero, a death lord, a man-butcher, this brutal man who's called by numerous names, with golden hair that shines like the sun, and gray eyes as cold as knives, stood there with a blasé look on his face, as if he didn't care about anything other than lunch. Horse neigh, Duke said. Easy, easy, easy. Edna, standing and thinking, thought, a horse. Then she asked, Are we going on horseback? Duke replied. That's right, Edna said. I see. While thinking to herself, a horse, it's been so long. Duke thought, she's weirdly excited. Then he said, I'm sorry we're not going in a carriage. You must be disappointed that I don't even have a coachman. Edna quickly responded, What? I didn't mean it that way. Duke asked. No? Fine then, Edna thought. Was that a joke? Then she said to him, Why are you just standing there? Duke replied. We barely have enough time as it is. Take my hand, Edna gasped. Ack? Thank you for helping me up, Duke said to the horse. Let's go. While riding, Edna thought, I was surprised. Him pulling me up all of a sudden was startling, of course, but I really didn't expect he'd make a joke. I never imagined that there could be a gentle side to him. Every time I bump against the saddle, it brings back the painful feelings from last night. I wish we were going on separate horses. The force of the hooves on the ground, the vibrations running through my entire body, the smell of the air that wraps around my skin. If I could ride on, feeling all of that, the way I used to, maybe I'd be able to get there. Somewhere far away, where no one could find me. Edna asked. What happened? Duke explained. Until the war was over, this land was left without any troops. While they were fighting in the war, lawbreakers pillaged the whole village. But even so, this is a lot worse than I imagined. It doesn't seem like caring for the land now will yield anything, not even a blade of grass. Had I made a visit sooner, it wouldn't have become this bad. TSK. It doesn't seem like we'll find a dress in this village. Edna simply said. Oh, Duke assured her. It's fine. I don't care about a dress. Villagers whispered. Are they travelers? Why would anyone visit here? Help us, sir, please. The only thing I had for the last 3 days was a piece of bread. Duke said. Once I stayed in this land. It was an affluent and beautiful village. Until the war was over, this land was left unattended. Edna, thinking to herself, cried internally. This is my fault. Maybe not all of it, but I'm definitely responsible. Duke, filled with resolve, said, I want to atone for my wrongs. I want to give back to these people. And then, in his thoughts, he admitted, There's definitely something about her. Duke, thinking inside, the way she got dismounted from the horse before, it's not something just anyone could have learned. There's an odd air of sophistication, intelligence, strength, and tone about her. It's just a hunch, but I've avoided countless dangers thanks to these hunches of mine. Should I try throwing her off? Duke said, My men will arrive a few days later. They went to find their family after we were stationed here. We must prepare for the winter in order to survive, but I haven't the slightest idea what I should do here. Edna said, So then? Duke said, However, I won't do anything for this land. Edna said to him, What? Duke said, I do not plan to wield my right as a lord in this land, and so I have no obligation to look after it either. Nevertheless, winter's on the way. I not only have my soldiers, but their families and you to worry about as well. I can't have all of you freezing in that castle, can I? Edna said, Well then, what do you plan to do? You said. Duke replied, I won't do anything myself. However, if you have any good ideas, you may do as you see fit, Edna. Edna, thinking, I can. This man, does he even know what he's saying? Letting me do as I please, meaning he will allow me to take any and all rights. If I have the right to do as I wish, that means I can help them. But a lowly maid like me shouldn't know how to help a rundown village. He might find out if I help them. Duke also thinking, Now, show me what you're hiding. Edna continued thinking, I'm dead if he finds out. There won't be a second chance. Still, I want to help them. Edna said, When will we hold our wedding? Duke replied, Wedding? With that dress of yours? Edna said I don't need a dress. I need justification. I need justification to act as the wife of a lord. Duke, thinking inside, those eyes again, it's odd when I gaze into those eyes. They look like the flames of a fire, like the light of the rising sun, or a star that burns brightly in the night sky. Ferocious, yet calm eyes. Very well. Those are the same eyes I saw that time. Duke said, Ha? Duke, thinking, although she fears me so, her eyes continue to burn. The more I know her, the more interesting she is. Duke said, Fine. Edna said, What? Duke replied, Let's go have the wedding right now. There must be at least one church in this barren land. I highly doubt they just rolled over and died with God's blessing. Edna thought, How vulgar. Is it going to rain soon? Sounds from the monastery. They're here. The head of the monastery greeted them warmly. Welcome. I welcome you, dear lord. I am the head monk of this monastery. You may call me Noel. Duke looked around with a sharp eye and scoffed. Ha, the building's on the verge of collapse, and the monks are about to pass out. What's going on here? Noel bowed slightly and replied, It is punishment for our own sins. We have angered the heavens, and so they try us through hardship. Now, what brings the Lord to this humble town? Duke said bluntly, We would like to have our wedding. We came to find someone who could officiate the ceremony. Duke thought to himself, his question seems hostile. It's not like they ever cared before. They wouldn't even notice if the wind blew up there. Then he said aloud, Well, that is, if you have the energy to speak. Of course, I will compensate for a wedding mass. Noel's tone shifted. But if I offer my service for your wedding, despite being an old and feeble man, what will you do for our monastery in return? Duke narrowed his eyes. What will I do? Noel explained. If you might allow us, we would like to collect money from the village to rebuild this monastery. After all, we are the servants of God. So we must be able to feed ourselves, wouldn't you agree? The other monks gasped. Father! Noel! Hiya! Duke's voice turned cold. You want to collect money? In this town? I saw plenty of your kind on the battlefield. Those self-proclaimed disciples of God who ignored the bloody cries of the people and locked the doors to their monasteries. You want to collect money from the people instead of praying for an end to their pain? Right. What do you think I'll do? He stepped closer, his tone like a blade. I said, what do you think I'll do for you louses? Edna's thoughts swirled. It's true. After running away, I had nowhere to go. So I ran to a monastery first. But the monks turned me, a person who had nothing to offer, away. I ended up wandering the streets, then got captured by some ruffians and sold as a maid. Then, when Anna left for the monastery, they gladly offered her their best room. The alleys are full of starving children, yet they avert their eyes and seek gold. How can they call themselves disciples of God? But then she thought, Gathering her courage, Edna stepped forward. Please! Calm down, my lord. Everyone is starving after the extended war. No one can remain graceful under the strain of such hunger. She thought quickly, the cardinal may seek out the culprit if a monk is killed. Even the king cannot stop an investigation ordered by the cardinal. Then she said firmly, They are servants to the heavens, my lord. Please quiet your anger. Internally, she reassured herself, he probably doesn't intend to really kill them. There'd be nothing to gain from such a grave crime. Duke clicked his tongue. Tisk. Then he turned and said curtly, Let's go. Edna hurried to Noel and the other two monks. Are you all right? Why, yes. They stammered in reply. Edna addressed them clearly. For now, we shall send you some goods and supplies by tomorrow. I trust the monastery will distribute the goods equally to the townspeople. I'm sure. Thank. Noel began, but Edna interrupted, her voice sharp. That God will be watching over you at all times. But please remember that we are also watching you right here. The Lord's sword is still pointing at your throat. You'll do well to remember that, Noel announced. It's done. You are now man and wife. Duke looked up at the darkening sky. The clouds don't look too good. Looks like it'll pour soon. Edna, we should hurry. Oh, yes, Edna replied quickly. Just wait, Edna thought to herself. I will, without fail, restore this place. Meanwhile, Duke's thoughts were swirling. The way she spoke back there, it wasn't something a mere maid could learn from peering over a noble's shoulder. It's not simply just knowing what to say. The tone of her voice, her posture, speech, facial expression, stare, they would all require a considerably higher level of education. Having such dignity is, just who are you, Edna? Suddenly, Duke shouted, "Arg! Whoa, it's coming down hard. It'll be too dangerous to keep riding like this. Let's get off for now. There's a cave nearby that hunters use. We should wait until the rain lightens up a bit." "All right," Edna agreed softly. "Ha!" Duke sighed as they reached the cave. "I would have just run back to the castle if I had been alone. How tedious." Edna lowered her head. "Sorry, this is my fault. Then again, even if you had been alone, you could still fall off the horse." Duke raised a brow. "You really can't let a single thing slip by, can you? Well, you're not wrong." "Ah," Edna gasped, suddenly coughing. "Achoo!" "Achoo," Duke echoed, frowning. Then his voice turned serious. "Don't just sit there. Take off your clothes." Edna's eyes widened. "What?" "Don't worry," Duke reassured her. "I'm not trying to do anything. Luckily, bandits haven't pillaged this place yet. There are some blankets here, so we can keep warm while our clothes dry." "But," Edna hesitated. Duke's voice became firm. "I don't want to be a character in some tragedy about my wife dying of fever on our first night. Take them off yourself before I do it for you." "Fine," Edna said reluctantly. "I'll get undressed." As she removed her clothes, Duke noticed the marks on her body. Whip scars. Is that why she didn't want to undress? He thought, his expression darkening. "Oh, thank you," Edna whispered softly as she wrapped herself in a blanket. Was he trying to make me feel better? Edna wondered silently. For some reason, when I'm with him, I feel myself returning to the person I used to be. Full of pride, confident, and living a lie. I thought I had already let go of my past. Flashback begins. Voices echoed in her mind. "Over there!" someone shouted in a foreign tongue. Then laughter followed. "Ha ha! Prince Eden!" Young Edna, dressed in royal clothes, turned her head sharply. In truth, she was not a mere maid at all. She was Prince Edna, heir to a powerful kingdom, living under a false identity. Duke Eli was a ruthless and selfish king. He changed the governing laws whenever he wished, took women for his pleasure, and exploited his people without mercy. Easily bored, he would discard things and people once they no longer amused him, including his queens. His first queen had already lost her life, and his second was banished back to her homeland. Then he welcomed his third queen, Cecil, into the palace. Cecil, the royal princess of Beowulf, was Edna's mother. Not long after marrying Duke, she quickly lost his favor and was forced to live among the king's mistresses, her life constantly at risk. She knew her only chance to survive was to give birth to a son, the sole heir to the throne. But when the day of birth came, Cecil delivered a baby girl. Knowing that the truth would mean death for both herself and her child, she lied to everyone, declaring that she had given birth to a prince. She ordered her servants never to speak of what they had witnessed. In secret, she named her daughter Edna, but to the world, the child was known only as Prince Eden. Cecil deeply despised the life of a royal woman. It was a passive and suffocating existence, where no matter how talented or intelligent a girl was, she was forced to be lovely, obedient, and ultimately married off to some powerful, often cruel man for the honor of her family. Cecil swore that Edna would never suffer such a fate. She decided to raise her daughter as a boy, preparing her to one day claim the throne for herself. She told her newborn, "When that lunatic Duke dies, this land will be yours to rule. I will not allow you to live the life I have lived." From that day forward, Edna lived as Prince Eden. Cecil oversaw every part of her upbringing. Edna's education was strict and intense. She trained in sword fighting, studied history, learned diplomacy, and practiced behaving like a true prince. Although the days were grueling, Edna was naturally intelligent and talented, which allowed her to adapt and thrive in her role. 16 years passed. By then, Edna had grown into a brilliant young warrior and strategist, unmatched by anyone in skill or wit. She even won a duel against Sir Derek, a highly renowned knight known for his swordsmanship. When Cecil heard of her victory, she praised her daughter but reminded her that strength alone would never be enough. Though Edna tried to remain humble, Cecil's words carried a deeper warning. Ever since she was old enough to understand, Edna had been told a painful truth: she was a woman living in a man's role. Cecil reminded her constantly, "Don't forget, Edna. You're a woman, and no one can ever know that. Your true name must remain hidden. Someday you will rule this land as a queen, but if your secret is discovered before that day comes, everything will be over. Your father would never forgive us." Edna could only answer, "Yes, mother." Living under this secret was exhausting. Edna never slept peacefully. She trained with her sword, studied, walked the streets, ate her meals, even breathed, all as Prince Eden. She took medicine to slow her natural female growth, but it wasn't enough. As her body matured, she tightly bound her chest every day, the pain and strain wearing her down more and more. One day, Cecil brought news that Duquesne III had fallen gravely ill. Rumors spread that syphilis had affected his mind, and he would not live much longer. Cecil told Edna, "Soon it will be time." Although Edna had heard these words her entire life, this time they carried real weight. Edna felt conflicted. She thought about the noble daughters who obeyed their families and were married off to old men, just as Cecil once had been. She also thought about herself, a girl forced to hide her identity and live as a prince. In the end, she wondered what truly made her different from them. Despite her doubts, she buried her feelings and replied to her mother with quiet determination. "Yes, mother." A worried servant rushed to the throne room and pleaded with the king. "Your Majesty, this is not a laughing matter. The resentful cries of the lords and the people are spreading, even within the main city. Please, you must listen to their grievances." But the king only laughed loudly. "Ah! What is it you fear so much? This city and castle are guarded by hundreds of knights who have pledged their loyalty to me. Even if a rebellion rises, just kill them all." Suddenly, another servant burst into the room, gasping for breath. "Your Majesty! Urgent news!" The king's expression darkened with anger. "How dare you raise your voice in my presence?" The servant fell to his knees, trembling. Please forgive me, Your Majesty. The matter is far too urgent, there's a rebellion underway. Their leader is the second son of House MacGregor, Caden MacGregor." At that moment, the winter of Edna's 16th year began with bloodshed. A servant hurried to Queen Cecil and cried out, "Your Majesty!" The war had begun. Cecil immediately turned to Edna. "You must not," she said firmly. "Mother!" Edna's voice trembled. Cecil continued, "I've already sent a secret letter to Beowulf. Reinforcements will arrive in 2 or 3 weeks. As soon as the soldiers arrive, we will return to Beowulf. Even Caden won't be able to touch us once we've crossed the border. We must plan our next move there." Edna stared at her mother in shock. "You mean you're telling me to flee?" "Yes," Cecil said sharply. "Duquesne III no longer has any authority as king. My only hope is that he can hold out until our reinforcements arrive. There's no longer any hope in the city. You cannot die in a place like this, Eden." Eden. That was the name Edna had lived under all her life, a perfect, idealistic prince sculpted by Queen Cecil. "But mother," Edna's thoughts churned. "If I abandon my country and my people, what was the point of the last 15 years living as Eden? Do I even have the right to reclaim the throne after abandoning my own land? Will I ever forgive myself for fleeing? If they left Oswald forever and never returned, Eden would no longer be needed for their survival. Then who would remain? What would be left of Edna, the real Edna? Both identities, Eden and Edna, felt distant and foreign. Trapped between them, Edna couldn't help but question everything. Time passed, and Edna's 16th birthday arrived. "My sincere congratulations, Your Highness," a servant said respectfully. "We should open the palace gates and welcome all the citizens to celebrate this joyous day. I apologize for not being able to do so." Edna shook her head gently. "Not to worry. I know we are not at liberty to do so. I am only grateful that you all have gathered here to celebrate with me despite these trying times. Times may be tough, but we shall win this fight together." After the banquet, Cecil approached her daughter quietly. "Tired?" "Ah, no, Mother," Edna replied. "I'm not tired, but the soldiers outside are risking their lives to guard the gate while I sit here safe and sound, enjoying a feast. It is hard to hold my head up from the shame." Cecil sighed. "I see. Well, the important thing is that you know. A ruler must boast from time to time. If we show weakness, the people will become fearful and lose faith in us. But if boasting is the only thing a ruler does, then one will fail and destroy the land, just like your father. Always think of the people who follow you." "Yes. I will keep that in mind," Edna promised. Suddenly, a loud voice interrupted them. "Your Majesty!" Duke III, the king himself, appeared in the hall. "Eden, my son! I was resting in my chamber when I heard news of your birthday. I couldn't just stay quiet as your father on such a day." "Thank you, father," Edna said calmly, hiding her inner turmoil. "Yes," the king continued. "Perhaps I shall give a speech, since it's such a joyful day." He suddenly raised his voice, almost raving. "My son, do you hear the cries from afar? Do you hear the galloping hooves? They are closing in." Cecil's face darkened. Duquesne III, she thought grimly. The king's eyes gleamed with madness as he shouted, "The day of your death is near. You will not live to see the light much longer." Duquesne III had grown madder by the day, his mind consumed by illness and paranoia, as war raged just beyond the palace walls. Within the palace, the residents whispered among themselves, their voices low and fearful. "Did you hear? Apparently, Sir Edgar was executed after counseling the king yesterday. The siege has been going on for a month, yet the king hasn't visited the battlefield even once. The morale of the soldiers is dwindling." "It's true. Yesterday, the king didn't seem to have a single plan. He still seeks only women and alcohol every day, without any concern for this rebellion. He doesn't seem interested in the people who have died for this war. The king has abandoned his duties as a leader." "Ha, in the end, that's right. It would seem so. We can't rely on a rotting rope to save us, can we?" Outside, the soldiers were exhausted, standing guard in the cold. "Hey," one soldier said, "go get some sleep. It's time to rotate." "Oh, is it already that time?" the other asked. "It's still a bit early," the first soldier advised. "Just keep this a secret from the commander." "Sure, thanks," the tired soldier replied. "We'll go ahead then." "Sounds good," the first soldier said. "Leave the gates to us," another soldier called out. Suddenly, a servant burst into the hall, screaming desperately, "Your Majesty! Urgent news, Your Majesty!" Cecil, startled, turned sharply. "Ophelia! What are you yelling about at this hour?" Ophelia was breathless and terrified. The gates have been opened. The rebels are pouring into the palace. King Duke III has already been beheaded. The palace will soon be taken over. You must run now. Cecil's face went pale. What? Beowulf, any news from Beowulf yet? Her voice cracked as despair filled her chest. How can this be? They've abandoned me. Beowulf has abandoned me. Is this the end of me? Enduring all this time just to fall like this, I've... Your Majesty, Ophelia urged. There's no time to lose. You must hurry and... Cecil interrupted sharply. Where is Prince Eden? Your Majesty, Ophelia faltered. Silence, Cecil commanded, her tone cold and decisive. I am the Queen. Do you think they'll give up until they've seen me swinging by the throat? Inside, Cecil's thoughts churned. Right, no royal will be able to avoid such a fate. Even Eden, but Edna's a different story. The only ones who know of Edna are me and Ophelia. I personally killed all the wet nurses and doctors who examined us. As long as Edna can escape out of the castle, she can live. Edna can survive. Edna! Cecil cried. Mother! Edna's voice trembled with confusion. Edna, take off your clothes right away, Cecil ordered. Pardon? Mother, Edna protested. There's no time for this. But then Edna froze. She called me Edna? Even with all these people watching. Edna's panic rose. You must hurry and escape through the hidden. No, Cecil cut her off. You are the only one who will escape. Edna! Sione! What? Edna gasped. Give her your clothes, Cecil commanded Sione. No one can continue on the same path once they grasp power. Edna, you must survive and watch what happens. Mother! Mother! Edna whispered, unable to comprehend her mother's desperation. Watch how that bloody throne consumes Caden, Cecil said with bitterness. Mother, Edna's voice cracked. You must live on as a normal woman, outside of this castle, please, Cecil begged. Yes, Mother, Edna finally said, tears filling her eyes. You're cunning. You're quite cunning, Mother. Actually, All right, Edna, Cecil said firmly. Tonight Eden dies here, Edna whispered. They won't suspect anything if they see this sword of yours, Cecil assured her. Then, with a trembling voice, she continued, When I think about it now, you were never able to live your life as your own due to my ambition. I killed all those people and sacrificed you, all for something so worthless that would crumble in the end. I was such a fool. Cecil clutched Edna's hands tightly. Sorry for everything. Be happy, my child. Mother, no, Mother, Edna sobbed, pounding on the locked door. Open up! Please open this! Inside, Cecil thought, this is my final selfish wish. You probably resent me. Gil, Cecil said aloud, steadying herself. Hold this. Yes, Your Majesty, Gil replied, taking the object with shaking hands. But I don't mind, Cecil thought. Turning to the others, Cecil spoke. And all of you, I'm sorry things have to end like this. When I felt that small warmth, Cecil raised her voice, filled with resolve. I will gladly accept any punishment in hell. But no one must know that Edna is alive. At that moment, Cecil vowed to protect her daughter, even if it cost 1,000 lives. Edna murmured in her sleep. Duke looked at her, thinking, is she having a nightmare? Suddenly, Edna shouted in her sleep. Don't leave me here! Take me with you! Let go of me! I need to be with them! Aye, take me! Startled, Duke grabbed her shoulders, shouting, Get a hold of wake up! Do you want to kill yourself in that fire? That's enough sleep talking. Edna's eyes shot open, and she stared at him in shock. You slapped me. Duke sighed in relief. Looks like you're awake if you can talk back like that. Then, in a calm tone, he said, Well, if you're up, get dressed. The rain stopped and our clothes are dry, so we should head back. If we linger around any longer, the sun will set and we'll have to spend the night here. Hurry up. All right, Edna replied quietly. Sleep talking, she thought to herself. Even so, I tried to jump into that fire? You've grown weak, Edna. Even if it was an unconscious act to attempt killing myself, I must remember. Remember the screams that echoed from the other side of the wall that night. I mustn't forget. The weight of the innocent lives that were sacrificed in order to save me, and the final wish my mother imparted to me. When they reached the castle, Duke said, Good thing Raoul had dinner ready. I would have starved to death once I passed the castle gates. You must be tired after everything that happened today. Let's retire to our room now. Oh, very well. Then I shall return to my room, Edna said. Duke stopped in his tracks. What are you talking about? Pardon? Edna blinked in confusion. Perhaps you've already forgotten, Duke said, raising an eyebrow. But we're married now. My dear Duchess, are you suggesting we sleep in separate chambers our first night of marriage? I'd rather not. Edna froze. Our first night. But we already spent last night. Duke looked puzzled. Huh! Then he smirked. That's it, then. We got married today, so none of that matters. It's just, Edna stammered, feeling trapped. For your information, Duke interrupted firmly. Even if this was a forced marriage, I don't plan on being a husband only in name once we're married. You are the one who insisted on that condition, that you would fulfill your duties as both wife and slave in exchange for the title of Duchess. Edna fell silent, unable to respond. Very well, Duke continued, his tone sharp. I'll bear with it. In turn, you must honor your word about giving me all the rights, Edna said softly, completing his sentence. Duke chuckled darkly. Ha, no need to worry about that. I already called you my Duchess, Edna. He paused, staring into her eyes, his thoughts swirling. Damn. For some reason, when I gaze into her eyes, I get dizzy and confused. Just who are you, Edna? Who are you, to drive me so? Duke clenched his fist, feeling an unfamiliar, unsettling emotion rising inside him. Duke said firmly, You shall sleep in my room from now on, regardless of whether I hold you or not. I'm sure you despise the idea of sharing a room with a lowly commoner like me, but you did say you'd bear with it. Edna quickly shook her head, flustered. That's not, I had only meant that I would bear with the pain. Because it was so painful when we first. She trailed off, her face turning red. Duke leaned closer, his tone softer now. And tonight? Did it hurt this time? Edna hesitated, then whispered, No, it didn't hurt this time. That's right, Edna thought to herself. Tonight wasn't painful, last night was strange. He wasn't rough with me at all. He was gentle and considerate, almost as if he was holding someone dear to him. I suppose that means I felt as though I was being loved, as a woman. It's strange, this isn't the same helplessness I felt serving as a maid. I can still clearly feel my senses as Eden. Yet to think that way so naturally. Her mother's voice echoed in her mind. You must live on as a normal woman, outside of this castle. A life as a normal woman. I dreamt of that life every day when I was Eden. But ever since I left the castle, I never imagined even once the heavy weight that came with surviving. Is it possible here? Eli gave me power and title as a duchess. And he clearly regards me as his wife. If I stay with him, I'll bear his child, and grow to care for him, and live on, and then. No, fool, don't get carried away. You made a promise, Edna. To restore what your father destroyed. The things that have crumbled away while my mother and I simply sat by dreaming and waiting for the throne. Eli's quick to catch on. He has good judgment, and he's a sharp observer. The knowledge I'd need to incorporate in order to revive this land is far greater than what a mere viscount's maid would be able to learn in such a short time. Of course, I'll be careful, but in the worst-case scenario, if my identity gets revealed, I'll be killed. Edna whispered to herself. Survive. I'm sorry, Mother, Edna thought, her heart heavy. But ever since I escaped that day, after abandoning my name, title, country, and people, surviving has only brought more pain. I felt as if my lungs were burning with every breath I took. I could only hang on to that sliver of guilt, and my life had no meaning at all. But at last I've found it, a reason for me to live on. Her memory flashed back to that fateful night. Are you telling me to flee? Edna had asked desperately. Yes, her mother Cecil had answered with determination. I won't run away this time, Edna vowed silently. Even if it costs me my life, I will restore this land. The next morning, Edna called out, Raoul. Yes, my lady, Raoul said, bowing respectfully. Did you have a good night's sleep? What may I do for you at this early hour? Please, there's no need for you to. Edna paused, steadying herself. I have a favor to ask. It's the least I can do, she thought, to repay my sins, Raoul said nervously. Madam. I have prepared everything as you requested. Edna turned to him with a calm smile. Thank you, Raoul. Well done. Raoul hesitated, shifting on his feet. But will this be all right? These are the supplies sent to the castle. To take them without first informing the Lord. Edna replied firmly. It's fine. The Lord is already aware of this. Duke, still in his chamber, furrowed his brows as he sat up. Again? I didn't sense that woman getting out of bed again. Even when she was lying here right next to me. He glanced around the room, noticing his neatly folded clothes and the absence of his sword. She even folded my clothes and took my sword, yet I still didn't notice? This doesn't make any sense. My body's still alert with the habits I developed during the war. Staying alert meant I couldn't let my senses dull even while I slept. There's no way I wouldn't wake up with someone moving around next to me. Well, that is, if it was a normal person. His expression darkened as he stood, muttering, What's all the commotion? Meanwhile, Edna stood before a small crowd gathered inside the castle hall. Thank you all for coming, she said graciously. I'm sure the roads must be dangerous after that storm yesterday. So again, thank you for coming. An older man stepped forward respectfully. The men can take the supplies here to the wagons for transport. And the women who have come for work, Edna added, please follow Raoul to the kitchen. There are many to feed, so we'll need a lot of bread. The man hesitated before speaking again, bowing deeply. Please, I do beg your pardon, my lady. Please forgive me, but even if you feed the hungry with the supplies from this castle, what will you do after that? As you very well know, we have no way of repaying you for these supplies. What I mean to say is, can you guarantee that the villagers will not be held hostage in return for these supplies? This man, Edna thought, her gaze softening. Despite what he said yesterday, he must truly care for the people in this town. He witnessed Eli's wrath with his own eyes, yet he gathered the courage to speak up for these people. She raised her voice, clear and confident. There's no need to worry. The Lord is aware that he was unable to take proper care of this land due to the prolonged war. He knows very well that you suffered from pillaging. That is precisely why we have personally summoned you to this castle. It would be fine to distribute the supplies through the monastery, she continued, but I thought it better to show the Lord's determination to all of you in person this way. The Lord shall decide what will happen from now on. So, at the very least, do not worry about taking these supplies with you today. Her expression softened as she spoke her final words. It is the duty of a lord to watch over his land. At that moment, Duke entered the hall, his sharp eyes landing on Edna. So she's using my title for this, and she can even smile like that, Duke said. Excellent work emptying the stores and so early in the morning. What a diligent wife I have. You're already hard at work the moment after we held our wedding. Aren't you too much? Edna said. My apologies. Were we being too loud? I did not wish to wake you. Duke said. Ah well, the noise was more than enough to wake all the people in the next town over. Edna said. Ugh. Duke said. By the way, I'm sure I gave you authority only yesterday. Did you already manage to take stock of all our supplies? My, oh my, how swift indeed. Edna said. Yes. Rowell assisted me, so. Edna thought, that look. I'm used to that sort of gaze. Judging me, inspecting every inch. Eli is suspicious of me. I expected this, but this is much earlier than I would have wanted. More importantly, the people were finally gaining faith, and now they're frightened. I have to put an end to this situation for now. Edna said. Rowell's in the kitchen. You must be hungry. I'll send word to have your breakfast brought to you right away. Duke thought, what's this? The people who looked anxious seem relieved now that they've heard Edna. Yesterday they were consumed by despair, wallowing in disappointment and resignation. They know I've abandoned this land until now. They know their lord doesn't care even after witnessing firsthand the devastation in their town. But now they're relying on Edna. Even though she only just became Duchess yesterday, however little they trust her. I'm curious. Back then, and then as well, and again this morning, even now. Edna has been here for less than a week. And each day has been full of mysteries. I want to know who you truly are. Edna said. Eli. Duke said. What are you all doing? Don't just stand there. Do what the lady has ordered you to do. If you laze around, I'll shut the gates. The people said. Yes, as you wish, good sir. Edna thought, those poor people, they're terrified. Why would he do something like that all of a sudden? Did I do something to confirm his assumptions? I'm sensing a sort of newfound confidence coming from him. That's Eli's room. Is he going to test his theory in there? This isn't good. I can feel it. I'm the one who will be tested in that room. No, I can't end things here. Please, help me. Mother, Rowell thought, hello there. I am a servant in this castle, Rowell. And here is the lord I serve. This is Duke Eli, the lord of this castle. He isn't the first lord I've served since I started working here at this castle. However, Duke Eli is a bit different from the other nobles. Of course, he's also of a different bloodline. But more than that, his eyes are different. As expected of a hero from the battlefield, the air around him is different. When I first met him, I was so frightened I barely managed to introduce myself. And the lady who just married him yesterday is an odd one as well. Normally, a daughter from a noble family is full of pride, picky, and doesn't care about what their servants have to do, but the lady will help when there aren't enough people, and has already managed to understand the state of this land, then distributed supplies right away. She's quite odd. And she's very kind. The people whispered among themselves. One person asked, "Is something the matter?" Another replied, "Perhaps the Lord is against distributing these goods? Then, what should we do? Will the Duchess be all right?" Suddenly Edna screamed, "Kaya!" Duke shouted, "Are you really just some bastard maid?" Edna thought, "Stay calm. If I say a single wrong word, it will be the end of me. He will only grow more suspicious if I try to make hasty excuses." Duke thought, this woman isn't just good at talking. What's more important for building trust than words is attitude. Sometimes threatening, and sometimes gentle. She knows how to lead people. You are not just some maid. So now, reveal yourself, Edna. Edna said, "Is that so important right now?" Duke asked. "What?" Edna replied. "Was that so important that you had to drag me in here, in front of all those people? You must know, the people in town fear you. Even if you don't want to, we'll have to give out our supplies for a while. At least until they can put aside their fear and regain their faith in you." Edna thought, now, here's the important part. A truth within a lie, that's the hardest thing to catch. What I need now. Edna said, "You asked if I'm really just some bastard maid. Very well. Perhaps I wasn't a bastard back in that castle. Because I was merely a maid." Duke said, "Is the truth?" Edna continued, "I would get beaten because I wasn't used to working, and I had to flee from the soldiers who tried to hold me every night. When I'd get beaten after being found, no one in that castle would help me. For a lowly, hopeless girl like me, that was the only sort of life I was given. So that is why I want to help the people in this town. The pain, the starvation, and the endless despair. I know them all firsthand, but if you suspect me because of that, do as you wish. I am your wife and your Duchess. But you are the one who gave all of that to me, so please do as you wish." "But you are the one who gave all of that to me, so do as you wish," Edna said firmly. Duke smirked and replied, "Ha! Did you think I'd be moved by your spirit if you yielded this way? Don't you already know what kind of person I am? I've beheaded countless people with this sword. You think I'll hesitate even for a second to cut off your head? Therefore, please do as you wish," Edna answered calmly. "I have nothing more to say. If you still suspect me even after that, then I have no other way to prove myself. You hold the sword, and all I can do is trust your judgment." "Blast you!" Duke roared. "There should be a limit to how stubborn you can be." Edna flinched and gasped. Let me see," Duke said, stepping closer. "I'm all right," Edna replied softly. "It's not a large wound." "It's not large, but neither is it small," Duke responded sternly. "I always sharpen my sword. TSK, we have to stop the bleeding. I'll bring Rowell here, so continue applying pressure to the wound." Edna thought to herself, he's changing the subject. It wasn't the best tactic, but I'll be safe for now. "Oh, and, could you bring me a change of clothes on your way back?" Edna asked hesitantly. "Ha, seriously?" Duke scoffed. Then, under his breath, he muttered, "I must be mad, to follow her orders." Edna's voice echoed in his mind, "Because I was merely a maid, that is why I want to help the people in this town." Duke shook his head and said, "Honestly, I've gone mad, Rowell. Rowell, are you in here?" Rowell rushed in, startled. "Oh dear, my lord! Is there something you need?" "Edna has been injured," Duke said, his tone sharp. "What? Dear heavens! What happened to the lady?" Rowell exclaimed in shock. Enough with all the useless questions, Duke barked. She needs treatment. Come to my room with medicine and bandages. Yes, yes. Right away, Raoul stammered before running off. Duke thought to himself, pathetic. I swore that if I ever took a wife, I wouldn't let her suffer the way my mother had. At this rate, I'm no different from my father. Ah, you are back, Edna said softly as Duke returned. How's your wound? Duke asked immediately. Raoul treated it well. She just left. Didn't you see her leaving? Edna replied. I did, Duke said, then added with a faint smirk. She could probably kill someone with that glare. Oh my, Raoul murmured under her breath as she left. Here, your clothes, Duke said, handing her the garments. Ah, thank you, Edna said, accepting them gratefully. You should stay in that for a while, Duke advised. I've sent all of your 100-year-old dresses to the tailor. Thank you, Edna replied softly. Duke thought to himself, Edna's identity will be revealed sooner or later. But I doubt Caden will mind. He just wants me to stay, and I'm the same. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't curious about who Edna really is. But whoever she is, I don't care anymore, Duke said. In battle, the one who draws his sword first wins. Perhaps I've spent too much time in battle. I was too hasty earlier. I'm sorry. Edna thought to herself, to think he'd apologize to me. I thought he wouldn't even blink if my head fell to the ground. He's full of surprises. Raoul, Raoul, Edna called out. I need to ask you something. Raoul rushed in. My lady! Are you feeling better now? Yes, all thanks to you, Edna replied warmly. I heard you were upset and glared at the Lord for me. Raoul stammered. What? How did you? He told me himself, Edna said with a faint smile. As you know, he has a keen sense of observation. Oh dear, please forgive me, Raoul exclaimed, bowing her head. I dared to do such a thing to a high, respectable noble. Please, there's no need for that, Raoul, Edna said gently. Neither the Lord nor I have any problem with that. Pardon? But Raoul began. It's true, Edna reassured her. The Lord wouldn't hold a grudge over something like that. He admitted his mistake to me as well. And even apologized? Raoul said in disbelief. He's a kind man, Edna said softly. Madam, Raoul whispered, moved. Well, at least more so than he seems to be, Edna added with a little laugh. Plus, you were just worried about me. I was so touched. My lady, Raoul said emotionally. By the way, Edna continued, I haven't seen the Lord around here today. Do you know where he is, Raoul? Oh, he left saying he had some errands to take care of in the town, Raoul replied. I see, oh well. Edna paused, then asked. Then, Raoul, would you happen to know about the Lord's men who will be returning to this castle? Yes, madam, Raoul nodded. How are the preparations for welcoming them going? Edna asked. Very well. The Lord instructed that we simply clear out the hall, so we've done just that, Raoul explained. Only the hall? Edna questioned. It will be winter soon. Will their families all live in the hall as well? Edna thought to herself, that's right, I forgot. Originally, only the Lord and his family were allowed to have their own rooms in their castle. The servants and soldiers normally find a place to stay in a nearby town or set up camp somewhere outside of the castle. But right now, the town doesn't have a proper inn to speak of. There aren't enough supplies nor men to help set up a camp either. Right, it might be better for them to stay in the hall. Still, if he even had them bring their families here, they can't be just any soldiers or servants. If Eli was the one watching Caden's back, then there must have been those who watched Eli's back as well. If they are his comrades, who he trusted to have his back during that long war, I'm sure he must. Rowell, please clean the rooms so that the Lord's soldiers can stay in them, Edna ordered. Rowell hesitated. I beg your pardon? But the Lord. Don't worry, I'll talk to him, Edna assured her. Winter will be here in 2 months, and I'm sure there will be women among the families. It will be much too harsh for them to live in the halls. My lady, Rowell thought, deeply touched. Very well, I understand, Rowell said with determination. Just leave it to me, I'll make those rooms so clean they'll shine. I have faith in you, Rowell, Edna said with a smile. Then Edna swayed slightly, thinking to herself, I feel a bit dizzy. The Duke told a servant to deliver a letter to the king. The servant seemed hesitant and asked, my lord, wasn't that? The Duke replied that since he got married as ordered, he needed to report it. He wondered if this would be all right, mentioning that Tommy was a good rider but had never been a messenger before. Still, he thought nothing could go wrong. Tommy only had to say his name at the city gate and deliver the letter. The servant understood and nodded. The Duke thought to himself about how pitiful this town was. It didn't even have a proper messenger to deliver a letter. Westfield was a large territory within Oswald, and if a town so close to the castle was in such ruin, the ones further away must be in an even worse state. He found it troublesome. He remembered the town head mentioning that the river floods every rainy season. Last time, the rain stopped quickly, but there was no guarantee it would happen again. He decided that the riverbanks needed to be reinforced before the heavy rains arrived. He also had to rebuild the patrol forces that deserted when the castle was empty and find trustworthy people to restore the administration. He predicted that tomorrow morning, or the morning after, people from other towns would gather once they heard the rumors. He thought about which crops could be cultivated quickly and distributed first. Artisans would also be needed to build more facilities. To plan properly, he needed to look at a map of the territory. He felt frustrated. How did he end up in this position? They had already distributed supplies once, and he couldn't just sit back and do nothing like before. Stopping the distribution would cause complaints from other towns. Caden was going to love this situation, he thought bitterly. He never wanted to be a lord in the first place. Edna appeared and asked if he was back, mentioning she heard he went into town. The Duke blamed her in his mind, thinking, it's all her fault. He casually replied that he sent a messenger to the city and looked around the area. Edna said she had something to discuss, but then she suddenly stumbled. The Duke caught her and realized she had a fever. He scolded her gently, asking why she hadn't noticed her body was sick. He told her to take care of herself, explaining that overworking herself was foolish, not diligent. He urged her to go to bed before her fever worsened. Edna agreed softly, though she was confused. She thought to herself, is it because of the fever? Why do I feel like my head's going to burst? Rowell checked on her and noticed her fever had risen. Edna thanked him. Rowell then explained to the Duke that her exhaustion and the wound on her neck caused the fever to rise. He had applied an herb to treat the infection, so she should recover soon. The Duke coldly said, pathetic, but acknowledged Rowell's work and dismissed him. After Rowell left, the Duke turned to Edna and complained. He had given her a nightdress so she would rest, yet she wore an old dress he was going to throw out, only to get sicker. He sighed, calling her a troublesome woman. Edna then told him that she had asked Rowell to clean the rooms for his soldiers. She assumed he wanted them to stay in the castle because they must be dear to him. She admitted she wanted to ask him first, but since he was away, she went ahead and arranged it. Nervously, she asked if that was all right. The Duke was stunned and said it was absurd. He called them just a bunch of people who were like family to him. Finally, with a deep sigh, he muttered, "Good grief, you truly are troublesome." The Duke noticed that Edna's fever seemed to have gone down. Well, at least that's over, he thought to himself. But now I've got another problem. Suddenly, soldiers rushed in. One of them cried, "Oh no!" Another shouted, "This isn't good! Call the Lord quickly!" "My lord, urgent news!" a soldier said as he bowed. "What is it?" the Duke asked sharply. Raoul stepped forward, panting. "There's a messenger from town. The levees by the river banks are. The rain won't stop any time soon. It's become quite severe." The Duke's eyes narrowed. "Very well. I'll head down there. Prepare my horse. Also, the lady will be up soon. Get her medicine and breakfast ready." "Yes, my lord," Raoul said and hurried off. The Duke sighed deeply. "Ha!" Just then, Edna appeared. "Did something happen in the town?" she asked, concerned. The Duke turned to her, surprised. "You're up?" "Yes," she replied softly. "Are you feeling any better?" he asked. "Yes, thanks to your consideration," she said with a slight smile, then quickly added, "More importantly, is there trouble in town? I overheard that the banks are in danger of overflowing due to the heavy rain." The Duke cursed inwardly. Darn. She heard everything. Out loud, he said, "You still have a slight fever." "Oh," Edna lowered her head. "Which is why you need to stay put and rest," the Duke instructed firmly. "Don't run out when you're sick and worry everyone like that again. Understand? Raoul will bring you your meal soon, so stay here. I'll be visiting town for a bit." Edna nodded, but as he left, she thought to herself, "Worry them, he's right. I won't be able to help reinforce the banks in this state, but why? Why do I feel so restless?" Meanwhile, the Duke rode toward the river, feeling his exhaustion weigh on him. Blast, it's difficult just trying to keep my eyes open. If the rain keeps pouring like this, then... "Oh, my lord! You're here!" soldiers shouted as he arrived. "What's the status?" the Duke demanded. "The bank is holding out for now," a soldier reported, "but it's slowly being pushed back by the water current. At this rate, the levees will topple and the river will flood. Some of the weaker spots have already flooded. If we don't hurry, the reinforcements will burst any moment now." "I understand," the Duke said, his voice calm but urgent. "How should we handle the reinforcements?" "We need to fill more sacks and stack them up," the soldier explained quickly. "Sand is best, but right now even stones, dirt, anything will be fine. We need to reinforce the levees to make them higher and wider, and we can't leave any cracks." "All right," the Duke ordered. "You, head into town and gather as many more people as you can." "Yes, sir," the soldier saluted and ran off. "You too," the Duke commanded another pair. "Head to the castle and bring sacks and more hands to work. We'll also need to set up a camp as shelter from the rain, so bring as many supplies as you can." "Yes, sir," they responded and rushed to follow his orders. The Duke let out another weary breath. "Ha! It's going to be a long day."